Welcome. Here we're with the Discover the Leader with the podcast with a good friend of mine, Chris Klebba. And welcome, Chris. But before I jump into it, I just want to thank James Gray, one of our Reaching Higher mentors, for partnering with us. Reaching Higher doesn't exist without our mentors and without people like you. You're one of our partners also. So just want to welcome you, Chris, to the Reaching Higher podcast, and want to also just talk a little bit about your background.
Yes, absolutely. Happy to be here, Troy. Interesting background, but, always been around business, had an entrepreneurial father pretty young. So I kind of had that bug from a young age of just seeing what was out there in terms of personal growth, development, paving your own path and getting the tools to go do that. So I always kind of had that bug. And so I had a great example in my dad, but went through life. And then when I was a little bit later, early 20s, I just was too entrepreneurial for my own good and had to find something, what you put in is what you get out with life, with business, with the people I was around, and kind of threw myself full into that entrepreneur world and started a home office and some businesses, and here we are, off to the races now.
And here you are. You're an entrepreneur. You're actually the CEO of Northern Blends, which is Smoothie King. You have multiple franchises.
Yes,
how many franchises?
we got 20 and 4 being built right now.
And 4
up
being
there,
built?
Yep. And then Buff City Soap, we're up to 12, have some trampoline parks on the East Coast and some restaurants and independent businesses as well here.
So I can't imagine that you ever have any time.
No, not much. Got to create it if so, but yes.
I love it. I love it. And then you've also said yes to partner with Reaching Higher. You're on our board, Strategic Advisory Council. And you've come in actually to our classrooms and spoke in our sessions and had a transformational impact with that. Why do you do it?
Yeah, I am very, very, very much on that journey myself, and I have found that to be the personal development journey to be the realest and almost only journey there really is that this is all about. Because if you want anything really, and a lot of us are going to dead end eventually into wanting something, be it happiness or some quality of life or presence that we know we're capable or able of achieving, it's going to dead end into the personal development side of things. And so I am on that journey, very much living it every day, and could not be more passionate about it because I really believe, and been around a lot of mentors, that's the magic, and no one can escape that or go around it. It's anything you want, you got to go through that discipline and adversity to get there. So I'm so passionate about teaching the skills to go get the quality of presence that you're after.
You are, I'll reframe it, you are the most passionate person that I've met around personal leadership development, other than maybe James.
Yep, that's why we're friends.
You two really are. So, so where'd that come from? Talk to me about how that came about.
Yeah, when I look at, I've been thinking a lot about lately in Ed Milet's book that I share with you, that Power of One More. We inherit our emotional homes from our parents. And one of those homes I got from my dad was, I think, that just constant grind of the explorative nature of growth and the expansion of your capacity. So he was always listening to what were tapes back then, but tapes and books, and that personal development side. He was just always telling me, get around, find the best, get around them, find mentors from a young age. He was just on me that you have to have a vision for your life, and you have to be responsible to expand and create that vision and get the skills and discipline to get there. So I was just around being a student of that for a long time from an early age. So it really came from that. And then, of course, you go through life and realize nothing external or circumstantial is going to bring you anything you want long term. So as you start to see those years tick off, you know that nothing is going to change if I don't insert the intentionality, choices, and discipline to bring me what I want.
Yeah, no doubt. But I just want to share this. So, and you said a lot about you, but I've come into a coffee shop, we've had a meeting, and you were sitting with a young man who redid your floors, and you've sparked up a conversation, and then now you're meeting with them on a periodic basis, once a week or twice a week. So here you are, the CEO, but you're willing to carve out of time. You were so passionate about personal leadership development, you want to give it to others. Where did that come from?
Absolutely. I think one of the limitations of business is that not everyone you interact with may be ready or want the skills to change their life yet. So unfortunately, one of the realities of business is, there's some convincing or some responsibility on us to create that spark. But what gets me excited is the longer you go, a lot of people say they want to change their lives and they say they want these skills and they want to be a leader, they want to provide for their family, but so few people are really willing to get after it unless they're really sick of being where they are and really want to make a change. So those people are rare, and if I find them, I will give them everything I have, because that ingredient is what makes the whole thing work. They got to be ready. They got to understand that they're accountable to their lives, that they have some responsibility to get there, and they're sick and tired of being where they are. Because I just have a lot of people tell me they're ready. Everyone wants, money to be a leader, wants success, wants to change their lives and make an impact, but so few want to understand or at a point in their journey where they can really set sail and just embrace the discomfort and change their lives. So people who are willing to be that rare and stand up and say, I'm going to create some separation and go down this scary, lonely world, I'm right there with you, because I'm on that journey myself, and people like yourself, James, the camaraderie with those rare few on that path is everything to me. So I'm infinite energy to help people who have that spark.
Yeah. Well, it definitely shows. And I just want to say thank you for who you are.
Thank you.
And being willing to do that. So I want you to think about walking into South Lyon High School. That's where you spoke to our class a couple of times, and sitting through and coming in and being a keynote speaker for us. And one of the things that I found so profound is after you kicked it off, after you saw what we were teaching, you stuck around for a little bit, you poured back into some of those students, but you looked me straight in the eyes and you said, Troy, you're teaching the same stuff. You're teaching the same stuff that we're teaching in our business and that I teach to others and that type of thing. Talk a little bit about your experience in that classroom.
Yeah, I think, just on that last point you made, the core of this personal development, leadership development, personal expansion journey is really the same type of ingredients, which is just around skills, discipline, accountability, vision. So those themes are of personal growth or just getting where you want to go. They're the same fundamental themes. So that's why I try to get behind, like you said, a lot of coffees with people, a lot of classes and programs, but Reaching Higher stuck out for me because it is so real to those themes and core principles that actually will make a change in your life. And unless you're really growing and ready to make a change in your whole life as a whole and expand your capacity and your quality of being, nothing's going to change. And it's those themes that were in Reaching Higher that I fell in love with. So I felt it there in a second.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So one of the things that there's a quote that I heard you say is actually in your podcast with James. I think it was episode 5. Let me read it back to you. Okay. And you said this: as a business, you have to live in these subjective, uncomfortable accountability, where accountability's feelings, personal involvement, subjectiveness, people are very uncomfortable. They would rather live in a spreadsheet world. And then you said business and personal is one bucket. One bucket. Talk a little bit more about your experience there. Why are you so passionate about that?
Yeah, it's just... I used to be cautious saying this, but now I feel like I could say it pretty firmly because, you meet enough people at a high level and they all say the same thing. But it's really about, how you do anything is how you do everything. And it's about really getting after your life in general. And whatever themes you're going to use, like we said, to move the business bucket will be the same skills and discipline and accountability to move any personal buckets or happiness or emotional home buckets in your life. So I think it comes down to, again, those core principles and elements, and that not enough people are truthful about the amount of discomfort or anxiety or uncomfortability you're going to encounter wanting anything, and that should in fact be an intentional and welcomed part of the process, and something I try to get in my days every day. And when it's not in my days, stuff goes downhill fast. So I'm just so passionate about speaking honestly about leaning into that discomfort. Anyone who wants anything great, there is a massive amount of struggle, discomfort that's going to come with that forever almost. But you reframe your relationship with it and understand that is really what gives you the quality of presence and quality of life that you need when you know that you have it.
Yeah. And I would even go a point farther. I would say that's where life happens.
That's right.
When we're in our comfort zone, we're really not living, right? We're not taking risk. If life is to be an adventure, it doesn't happen in there.
Right.
It only happens out in that courage zone. Something else that I've heard you say just in your business is actually, and I've never heard this before, and I'm a student of it, but when you do your performance reviews, your managers actually ask and go through and talk about what's that person's, how are they doing on their personal values, maybe their top 3 or top 2, so to speak. So I found that so interesting. Instead of talking about your company's values, that's where you start. Why do you start there?
Yeah. I love this question. I would almost rephrase it just a slight way now, but unless people, that goes right back into what we just talked about, unless people want something that is going to move them towards that life, I don't really think our business has anything to offer them.
Wow.
So now, knowing what we do well as a company, we've actually redefined that, where before we thought, say your number one value was family, and that's incredible, nothing wrong with that, but we used to think as long as we engage you around your family, you'll do well. And now we realize, just because we understand what we do, we scale, we go fast, and we're intense, and we're urgent, that if some expansion of skills acquisition or just a different quality of life or some expansion of your being isn't kind of embodied in one of your top values, we just have nothing to offer. It's not going to be fun, and you're going to adapt too long, because all we have to offer for the intensity and the chaos and, all the stress that can come with it is the skills that are going to change your life, and the camaraderie of the few that are actually willing to put in the work and do it and create a space where others can create their own dreams within it. So I think that's really how we would look at it now is, like I said, personally, they have to be ready to change and grow. So we try to find values in their life that at least one of them in the top 3 or 5 that would lean towards that or suggest that, because we just know that our pace is going to rub against someone who does not want that really quickly and not great. So if they want that expansion, then everything that we give them will hopefully go through that framework. And we try to do a really good job painting the vision of that's why we're doing this. That's why we embrace this uncomfort, because that's where the glory comes and the wins come. And that's where you can take care of people and change your lives. So personally, they really have to believe it, because as we've seen, there's many a company with values on the wall who's walk at the door and the employees aren't embodying it. They have to be personally ready. So we try to now merge our company values, and as we found the people that work with us, we're trying to kind of identify what ingredient kind of makes both those tick. So we're even adding things like urgency into our values now, because spending a long enough time with what works and what doesn't, we've just got good at knowing what are people motivated by, or what do they enjoy when they're around us and they're successful and they're thriving? What do those people have in common? What are the attributes? What are the values? How do they think? What are they looking at the framework for this whole thing? And we just try to become specialists at know it ourselves and doing some self-reflection with all that.
No, that's so powerful. What we like to tell our students, and it's not just our youth students, but it's our corporate, is that this is a class about you. Mm-hmm. And it's profound. When we talk to a student, think about them coming in and, right, it's always been math subject, it's been English, it's been all these subjects on topics. But this is we go to them, how would you like to take a class about you? All about you. And that's where it comes from, the personal values that's there. And honestly, if you start with organizational values and you give someone some hard training, it just doesn't stick. Mm-hmm. Because it's really, your organizations are nothing but a product of your people.
Yeah.
And therefore that's there. So you mentioned another word about, and you actually changed your company's definition of trust. Mm-hmm. Expand on that a little bit.
Yeah,
what did you change it from and to?
Yeah, this is, looking back at old podcasts, part of the fun of personal growth is you hardly recognize yourself from even a year or 3 or 5 ago. Things change so fast. You're such a student of the whole thing. But this one holds pretty truer about trust not being, I can count on so-and-so to do their job and they can count on me to do mine. Trust is really about vulnerability, transparency. And that's another very uncomfortable kind of subjective place where people don't like to be. But again, that's where you got to really air everything out and get it out on the table and have people that understand that we have to be vulnerable and uncomfortable to get to this greatness, and that if you really want to win, this isn't a style, this isn't a choice, this isn't an option. The people who have won, they all live this stuff, breathe this stuff, and this is the way we got to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So one of the pushbacks that we get, because they hear about one of our key values being vulnerability and having to build trust, philosophically the same mindset. And we get pushback that, these are just soft skills. Doesn't really matter. There's lots of skeptics out there. And when you consider about everything that's being provided, it seems to be everything but that, where people aren't getting real. Why are you passionate that what we teach and what your companies are about actually is leadership? What would you say to the skeptics?
Yeah. And honestly, I had my own skepticism growing up, even being as close to everything as I was. But again, I think you see the years tick off your life. You start to check boxes of things you thought would bring you skills or make you happy or make you just step into this character that would live away, think away, do something. So once you've actually experienced the things that people think will do it or the things you think will make those connections for you, you're left with the real truth, which is what we're talking about, the skills and themes, discipline, choices, accountability, where you get around enough people that live this way. And again, you realize it's not a style. And when I was living in a way where I thought it was optional or a style, I did not have the results. And only on the other side of this whole journey do I realize, I was a 1 out of 10 where I thought I should have been on discipline and accountability. And you have to live that way for so long at such a high level to really get the results. And once you understand that, there's no other option than being passionate about this stuff. So you look at enough people who have the happiness, have the success, have the results and the lifestyle you want. And I haven't met one that doesn't put this at the core of their existence and their being throughout their whole life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because as a retired basketball coach, I always found it interesting. We as coaches would go to seminars. We would go to these off things, and it would always be, well, what offense you run? Are we running man to man? Are we running motion? It was all about the system, or what I would equate to the hard skills.
Yeah.
People have won national championships with all of them. Mm-hmm. It's about your commitment. It's about those soft skills that get you there. And another saying that I've heard someone say that's very profound to me is in regards to hard skills get you in the door. They get you hired, but it's the soft skills that get you fired, or on the opposite side, that takes you to your dreams. Mm-hmm. So I think we're saying it's funny how we're saying the same thing. So, Chris, you're a lifelong learner. You're someone who's constantly into books. You're constantly learning. Talk about, I guess, I'm going to go off kilt a little bit. Talk about right now, what are you learning over the last month or so?
You know what's so funny? This just came to me when you were saying that last question is, we spend so much time, and kind of the hot buzzword right now is like we say talk about your why so much. But the reason why I love these skills, it gives you a how to do anything you want. Hard skills are often very individualized or specific, I find, but these skills have translated to every area of my life. To the tune of, why would I consider doing an MMA fight? Because I'm better at that process of learning and performing over a period of time now because I have that framework. I could apply it to an MMA fight. I could apply it to anything I want. Yeah. So I'm passionate about things that teach you how to do things and then doing them and practicing them, and they expand. Like John Maxwell says, I'm such a better learner now than I was because my capacity to get knowledge and put it into play, practicing that, has expanded over time. Wow. So I find that I'm so good at learning now that even things like golf lessons are so fun because I have the framework and the systems of how to go through everything you're going to go through as you learn or as you acquire knowledge or skills. So I think anything around that quality of presence, skill acquisition, how to live at a high quality of life that incorporates all these things, I'm just so attracted to, because if you put the demand on that learning, I find it so easy. And that's another point I guess I'd really like to drive home is when you put that demand for knowledge in your life, it's fun to learn. It's fun to read because you get better at reading something or discovering something and then putting it into action quickly. That's a skill you develop. So I can read something or ask a question, have something and get that knowledge or go seek it. I'm better at getting the knowledge. I'm better at putting it into play. So whatever I'm passionate about, I'm constantly reading, I'm constantly learning, but at the core of it is just that I am reading, that I am learning, that I am putting stuff into practice. Less about what it is, more about the fact that I'm just keeping that engine revving, keep practicing the skills of knowledge acquisition and then putting it into practice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Chris, I want to go back. You talked about, you mentioned your dad. You mentioned the impact that he had on you growing up, surrounding the people that you did. So with that, I want to kind of flip that, because you've been into our classrooms, and they're not always fortunate to have a dad that's pouring into them.
Yeah.
So, and I have a feeling that's one of the reasons why you're so passionate about reaching higher, because we're kind of there filling that gap to a certain degree and throwing maybe that switch on in regards to that. But can someone that doesn't, let's say, have that structure and that framework growing up, can they have that success?
Yeah, and the way I think about this, is no matter what circumstance you start with, it's really about where you want to be, what you see for yourself, the vision you feel, and then your distance from that, or your ability to maybe climb that mountain that might give you the biggest handicap or feeling of fright or insecurity going into something. But, even though I was born with a dad who gave me that stability, I am a son, so I want a lot of stuff. I have lofty goals. I think so highly of myself, his expectations of me. Like, I had a long, long way to go and a lot of skills to learn that just having some support or some cushion do not get you. And like I said, one of my biggest gifts or realizations was I had inherently a lot of skills and learned a lot of skills through him that allowed me to get a lot of things or be a certain person that I thought would make things click. I thought that I'd be happy. I thought I'd be present. I thought I'd have all the things I want. I thought I could go get it myself or go build. But unfortunately, I wanted a lot of things and they were lofty, and I had to replace that with the skills, the discipline, getting into these things and taking the same journey as anyone else who wants anything. And as you go in that journey, you start to realize that the Kobe Bryants, the Michael Jordans, Ed Milet, Andy Frisella, all my heroes and mentors, they all had those same exact struggles. Nothing came easy to them. They weren't more talented in these areas. They had to practice and acquire these skills. So I think the other benefit is I had a dad who understood the reality of things, that me having this life for you isn't going to provide you anything. You got to go get these skills, so I'm going to give you the skills. That's what we do. We're problem solvers. We're critical thinkers. That's what we do, and our gift is we can help process these skills for other people and develop other people. So I think it was a really interesting place to start, but it doesn't mean you're happy, doesn't mean you have what you want, doesn't mean you have the life you want. You're accountable and disciplined to all those things. So I still wasn't happy just because I had these things. It just gave me the ability to get deeper and have some stability to go discover myself and work on my presence, work on quality of life, work on happiness. So comes with some pros, comes with some cons, and some of that stuff I think I learned later in life than I would have had I had maybe some harsher, some more issues in the upbringing, honestly, because I had to go get this when I hit that wall of realizing time's ticking off or whatever. I had to create that myself. And a lot of people, life might give them that earlier where they say, wow, it uncovers everything they see behind the curtain. I had to kind of create that artificially by my life,
Yeah, that's powerful. That's really powerful. So I want to put you back in your leadership's role, in your CEO role. And I believe a lot of people or a lot of businesses don't invest in the soft skills because it's not as easy to measure as it is maybe spreadsheets and financials and all of the. So we can invest more resources, but it doesn't produce what the soft skills produce. So talk about that a little bit as someone who I know invests in personal leadership development, and how do you measure or how do you handle that?
Yeah, well, those are the hard questions, but here's what we do know now. Here's my district leader or multi-unit leader level interview is basically, if I sit with you, do I think my life is going to be better if I'm around you? Because that's the only thing that works and the only thing that's going to get engagement and motivation out of people over the course of time is my life going to get better because I'm around you? So that means, are you growing and expanding and changing your own life, and are you good enough at it and passionate and present enough with it that you can listen and empathize with me and teach me how to do it myself? That's the backbone of making anything happen in business of any type of industry. So that's the goal. Why and how to measure and all that, we still struggle with ourselves, but we know that that's the only way to make movement, especially at scale, is you have to have multiple people living their message and multiple people around them catching their vision all the time. And that vision and message has to be, your time here is going to make you a better person if you want it and put in the work and are willing to go through the discomfort with us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's profound. So, I know you're a sponge. I know you're always reading books. So tell me what books you're reading right now.
Yeah. I'm really into a philosopher called Ram Dass. So I'm very much into, like I've said a couple times here, the quality of presence. Kind of how I put my life now is my number one objective is to protect the space and have the discipline to execute, to put myself in the best possible place for quality of presence and quality life now. So I'm very passionate about getting people the development skills to get stability, get some financial security, get some traction with their family or personal emotional life that will at least give them some stability, because only then can you really start to get deeper in the things you thought were going to make you happy and explore this stuff and get deeper into yourself and your individual journey of what's going to make you happy. So I think now that I have those skills to feel abundant, feel like I can create, feel like I'm secure, feel like I have all these things, I've now been able to get a lot deeper in what is this about? What's going to make me happy? What's going to sustain me past money, past time? How do I get more connected to my community? That's the stuff I'm very passionate about now. But hard to explain that because that can only come paired with that intensity and discipline of that personal growth bucket. You can't really skip here. They're synergistic and mutual, but you got to develop both, I think. And but right now I'm really working on that presence, quality of life bucket.
Yeah. One of the things I said to you earlier in our conversation before we started the podcast, you can't give what you don't have.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's what I appreciate about you is that you're starting your company with yourself. It starts with Chris. Mm-hmm. And it starts with even acknowledging it's a mess in there sometimes, and I need to move into that.
Yeah.
And isn't that the best way? I mean, if we really want to connect and help someone be better, it's by sharing us.
That's it.
By sharing our story.
Mm-hmm.
And then telling someone where we're trying to go.
That's right. So I think we have a real problem with the fact that I think we consume success in terms of ease. Like we want to get successful, then we want to make it look like it was easy, or we just consume someone's success by how much we think it was easy for them. It's so strange. And I think one of the most powerful parts, like we were talking about before we jumped on, was when I was really able to step into that vulnerability, I finally became authentic because I was willing to do something about it and then speak to the journey I had and all the frustrations and all the struggle that comes with it, because that's really where the magic is how constant the struggle is, how uncomfortable it is for even people you perceive at being high level or talented or gifted in certain areas. That struggle is in real time. They just know how to manage it, and they have a good relationship with it, and they have tools, tricks, and tactics to get them through and sustain. And I think that's at the backbone of it all.
Yeah. So you touched on something really profound, in my opinion, and it's not talked about nearly enough. And I would like to hear your thoughts on it in regards to how ego gets in the way.
Yeah.
How ego not only gets in the way of our growth, but think about what you just shared in the sense that the reality is all the struggle is what's made us. All the failure is what's made us. But for some reason, like you said, we like to give the impression that I got it together.
Yeah.
And that's not helping anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. And I, just like we were talking about earlier again, because I'm so passionate about this theme, I think there's an attack on anxiety, discomfort, uncomfortability, and this is how it's showing itself. We know that the second you want anything, immediately or soon you're going to hit that wall of those things.
Yep.
But now we're telling you that that's not natural, or other people don't have it. So it damages their relationship with those key things in their lives, the discomfort that I try to lean into every day. It damages their relationship with that, and it makes them have an adversarial relationship with other people because they don't think they had it, or they think they got lucky, or they don't think they have the same anxiety. So if I didn't have that anxiety, I would have what you have too. When they don't understand they have what they have because they went through it, and they had skills to go through it. The discipline, the discomfort, the choices. So I think that's what cuts through it is that theme,
Yeah, and I think about social media today.
Yeah.
It is the antithesis of that. It's the total opposite of that, where on the outside it looks great. What's wrong with me?
Yep.
Because I have all these feelings, I have all these battles, those types of things, and I have these failures. I can't. So no one sees that true picture.
Yep.
And that's just so impactful. So we're probably finishing up our podcast right now, but tell me what book would you recommend out of all of our audience? They've kind of been through Reaching Higher. Most of them are alumni that listen. What book would you recommend to our audience?
I'd say a good one that really kind of hits, a little bit of the personal business, that whole life expansion world, is The Power of One More by Ed Milet, because it puts so much on the emphasis of you having accountability to show up in a present way first before you even undertake this journey, or how to understand that internal thermostat of who you are, how you see yourself, the thinking mind, like you said, the ego, how to kind of move the needle on all that as you're also building the skills and getting the acquisition of this other knowledge. If you're getting and adapting to this other knowledge without moving your internal identity or your self-talk, it's just an adaptation. It will never last long term. So as you're doing this and elevating yourself and going through this personal growth journey, if you're not also raising your view of yourself and kind of getting out of your thinking mind a little bit, it's going to be a long struggle. So I think that book really addresses the emotions you're going to go through as an entrepreneur. And that's why I really love Ed Milet and Andy Frisella, because they talk about managing that separation you create, because society functions at such a low level. The second you do anything, you're going to create massive separation. Now you have to manage that separation. And there's a lot of emotions that come with that. It's a mental hard game to do that and manage that. And I think that book really hits on that topic, along with the personal growth and development.
And at the core of each person, we're all entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We all really work for ourselves, whether we get our paycheck from someone else or not. So,
you're the CEO of your happiness, of your baby, of your relationship, or whatever it is.
So it's so applicable to everyone. Mm-hmm. And Chris, I just want to thank you for being on our podcast today. I think there were so many golden nuggets that everyone got out of here. And I want to leave you with this, because you said it, is that you're a thermostat. You're not a thermometer. And there's a big difference. And there's a big difference with leaders with that, is a thermostat sets the temperature in the room, right? Up or down in moving it. And that's who you are. I'm always more inspired by our conversations together, where a thermometer just tells the temperature in the room.
Exactly.
And there's a big difference there. So I just appreciate you. Thank you for being on our podcast today. And
Thank you, Troy. And I said, if I could leave everyone with something, it's that, please. Again, it's not a style. It's not an option, really. Unfortunately, if you want something or, want to get after something and take some ownership and accountability over that, it's all about, these are the tools that are going to get you there. They're going to bridge the gaps. They're going to tell you what's really happening. So if you are sick and tired of having what you have, or feel like there's a dream for more for yourself, just go on that personal leadership, personal development journey. You got to start leading yourself, and the quality of life and presence that comes from that journey is unlike nothing I've experienced. And I've been a student of it my whole life. And at 31, I'm finally learning to lead myself, to work with myself, to be happy, to be present. And it's all built on that tenacious, relentless effort to just expand and grow and spend time around people like yourself and have these conversations and all the things that are in reaching higher. Yeah.
And you can't lead anyone else until you lead yourself first. It all starts with you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Troy.